Hey everybody, we're going to keep reading Civil War on Sunday. We're going to find out what happens to Jack and Annie now that they have used the magic treehouse to magically transport them back to the Civil War. So far, they have come across some soldiers. Annie saw that one of them was wounded and needed help, and she came over to help them. And do you remember the soldiers that they saw were wearing blue? So which side were those soldiers fighting for if they were in blue? Think about that. Chapter 3 is titled Field Hospital. What do you think a field hospital will be? You guys already know probably about a hospital. Why would you need to go to a hospital? When do you go there? You might go to visit someone that's sick, but usually when people are going to hospitals, they're going because they're sick or they're wounded really bad. Not like a paper cut or a twist of my ankle. It's usually, pretty significant injury or a pretty significant illness. Okay, so that's hospital, but we're talking about a field hospital. So let's see what that means. Jack and Annie walked with the soldiers into camp. Outside one tent was a long line of men in torn blue uniforms. They looked tired and hurt. Many were bloody and barely able to stand. So remember we said the blue uniforms meant that they were on the Union side. Women wearing dark dresses were giving out food and water to the men in line. "Where are we?" asked Annie. "I'll find out," said Jack. He pulled out the book and found a picture of the campsite. He read, "During the Civil War, field hospitals were set up quickly near battlefields to treat wounded soldiers. Soldiers stayed in the field hospitals for a short time before going back to fight or moving to a larger hospital or being sent home. This field hospital in Virginia took care of 400 patients." So this is not like a hospital where you go now in your community. This is just, a tent or something that's set up really quickly on the battlefield. So as soldiers are getting hurt, they can come and get treatment. So it's kind of a makeshift temporary hospital. And this one treated 400 patients. "That's a lot," said Annie. "It sure is," said Jack. He pulled out his notebook and wrote, "Field hospital means set up near a battlefield." See right here, these are the notes that he's taking in his notebook. Jack read aloud again from the book. "More than 3,000 women helped out as nurses during the Civil War. Nursing was a new job for women in America. Before the war, only men had been nurses." So did you know that before the Civil War, it was men who were nurses, and then during the war, a lot of women helped. In fact, it says 3,000. That's a lot. "Wow," said Annie. "Maybe we can be nurses." "Forget it," said Jack. "Kids can't be nurses." Remember, that's what he said in the last chapter. She wanted to go help a soldier, and he said, "Kids can't help." And now he's saying, "Kids can't be nurses." Jack wanted to find the special writing for Morgan and go home. The sad scene at the field hospital was making him feel sick. Why do you think that was making him feel sick? What if you were all of a sudden magically transported to a hospital and, do you think he felt sick because the things that he was seeing were kind of gross? Like the really bad bloody wounds? Do you think he felt just kind of nauseous from it was gross? Or do you think he felt sick, like nervous sick, like just kind of overwhelmed by all of it? "I'll just ask," said Annie. She headed over to a nurse cooking over a campfire. "Annie, we've got a mission," Jack called, but Annie kept going. It kind of reminds me of Jonathan in A Bear Named Trouble. Annie she just goes and does what she wants to do and what she thinks is right. She's not listening to Jack any more than Jonathan listened to his dad, is she? Jack heaved a sigh. He tucked his notebook and the Civil War book under his arm and followed her. Waves of heat rose from a small cooking fire. The young nurse was heating a pot of coffee. Flies buzzed everywhere. "Hello," said Annie. The nurse barely smiled at them. Her face was red and beaded with sweat. Her eyes looked terribly tired. "Where are you from?" she asked. Frog Creek, said Annie. We'd like to volunteer as nurses. The young women didn't seem at all surprised. We could certainly use some help, she said, sighing. Some of us have not slept for days, so they're having to do all this hard work, and it's just round the clock. There's no time to rest or sleep. Why not? Asked Jack. The wounded are coming here from a battle near Richmond, said the nurse. More and more keep coming. It never seems to end. So the battles are going on, and so people keep getting hurt, people keep coming in, and the nurses just have to keep tending to them. Just tell us what to do, said Annie. While we feed the new patients, you can go to the first 2 tents, the young nurse said, and give the other soldiers their noon meal. She pointed to the basket filled with bread and potatoes. Next to it was a ladle and a bucket filled with water. Anything else? Annie asked. Just try to give them comfort, the nurse said. So what do you think that the kids could do to give the soldiers comfort? What does that mean, to give them comfort? That means to make them feel better. So think about, here's Annie and Jack. They're 7 and 8. They're about your guys' age. So what would you do if you went into a tent and there was someone that was hurt really badly? Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're sad. They're in pain. What could you do to give them comfort? Think about that. And then when we talk, when we FaceTime tomorrow, we'll talk about some of the things that you came up with. How do we do that? Said Annie. I don't have time to show you, the nurse said, but here's a list of things that can help. So this nurse is so busy, she's like, I don't have time to explain it. Just go do it. She pulled a piece of paper from her apron pocket and handed it to Annie. Annie read the list to Jack. Sorry. Here's what the list says. It says, be cheerful, lessen sorrow and give hope, be brave, put aside your own feelings, and don't give up. It's a short list, but it's kind of a lofty list. Okay, the first thing says be cheerful. So we know what that means. Cheerful is like be like happy and positive. You don't want to walk in and say, like, oh my gosh, look at your leg. That looks terrible. Or you don't want to say, oh, is this war ever going to end? Don't want to say things like that. You want to be upbeat and cheerful and smile. That's the first thing. The second thing says lessen sorrow and give hope. Lessen means to like make something less. Try to take away some of the sorrow or sadness and give them some hope. Some hope that, hey, things are going to be okay. They're going to get better. The next one says be brave. Why do you think you would need to be brave? I mean, we're in a war. So it's scary. You hear like just all these shots being fired, and you're seeing bad things happen to people. So that can be scary. But they're saying we have to just be brave and put aside our own feelings. So instead of them focusing on themselves like, oh, I'm worried, I'm scared, I'm sad, this is gross, they're saying, to put away their feelings and don't give up. Just keep going. So this is the list that they have. Here's the nurse talking to the kids right here. Okay, so they've got their list, they've got their orders. Here they go. Follow that list, said the nurse, and you can't go wrong. The nurse took the pot of coffee from the fire and carried it to the line of men. Follow, said Jack. Follow that list. That's what she said Annie. Jack took the list from her. Don't you get it? He said, this is it. We found it. The special writing for Morgan's library. Something to follow. Because remember back in the first chapter, Morgan Le Fay gave them their mission and said you have to find 4 kinds of writings. And the first kind of special writing that they had to find was something to follow. And he's saying, here it is. We found it. She's given us this list and she said, follow the list. So they found something to follow. Yes, said Annie. Jack put the paper into his knapsack. It was handed right to us, he said, smiling. We can go home now. Oh, no, not now, said Annie. We have to help the nurses first. But Annie, said Jack. She picked up the food basket. Then she started toward the row of white tents. Wait, we're supposed to leave, said Jack weakly. Our mission's over. The truth was that he didn't want to help. He didn't want to be around wounded and suffering soldiers. It was too sad. Bring the water bucket and the ladle, Annie shouted. Then she disappeared inside the first tent. Jack groaned. Ugh. He knew he couldn't change her mind. He pulled out the list and read the first line. Be cheerful. Oh, brother, he said. Jack put the list back in his knapsack. He picked up the heavy bucket, hurrying clumsily after Annie. He tried to smile. So Jack is finding it hard to be cheerful, which I get. I mean, he's saying it makes him feel sad seeing all these people that are wounded and hurt. It's making him sad, so he's finding it hard to kind of be cheerful, but he's going to try. So tomorrow we will read chapter 4, which is titled Freedom Fighters. So you can be thinking about what you think the next chapter will be about, freedom fighters, and also think about what you would do to bring the soldiers comfort. And then when we FaceTime tomorrow, you can tell me what are some of the things that you would do to bring someone comfort if